first Reinstay, everyone. The Del Rey New Dawn book panel. My name is Heir. I'm with Del Rey Books. Sitting next to me is Jordan D. White, editor of comics. We have with us John Jackson Miller, Del Rey's own editor-at-large, Shelley Shapiro. Lucasfilm senior editor Jennifer Heddle, and the voice of Hera Syndulla from Rebels, Vanessa Marshall. So we're going to start off with just a quick little walk through some of what Del Rey's got coming up, and I think we have an expert here on this first one, Star Wars A New Dawn, so we'll let John take this.
Okay, this is Star Wars A New Dawn. This is set several years after Episode 3 and several years before the first episode of Rebels. This literally is figuratively is a new dawn in terms of the rebellion. The Empire is rising and it's consolidating its power across the galaxy. It is slowly transforming all of the features of the Republic into this darker vision that we see later on by Episode 4. They've got to turn the Republic Navy into the Imperial Navy and have Star Destroyers everywhere. They're beginning to oppress the people in ways that actually hurt. What we were able to do with this book is show the first meeting of Hera and Kanan from the television series. This is a point in time in which Kanan is in hiding. He is basically living from when the bars open to when the bars close. That's all he wants to do. He wants nothing to do with the Jedi. Certainly wants nothing to do with the rebellion. And Hera certainly is not in any way looking at recruiting a guy like him to be part of any rebellion at this point. And as often happens in stories of this kind, things happen. And that's what we get in A New Dawn.
Right, and then coming out in just a few weeks on November 4th is Star Wars Tarkin by James Lucino. Shelley, you want to give a little taste?
Want me to say something about it? Well, I assume everybody's familiar with Jim's other work, particularly Darth Plagueis, which he took, well, his first one we really did that was with Darth Lord, Rise of Darth Vader, where he has shown that he's a master of taking the anti-hero or villain, whatever you want to call them in these cases, and making them fully complex and interesting and compelling. And Tarkin was one of the most interesting characters in the movies who's never been really explored that much. I mean, who is this guy who Darth Vader listens to? He's the only guy without the Force who can control Darth Vader, so it seems. So we gave that job to Jim. We said, do with Tarkin what you did with Plagueis. And he did, and it's a really, really interesting read. One of the little fun tidbits in this book is that apparently, though it was never used in the movies, George did give a name to Palpatine. And the story group and Jen came to us and said, hey, you want to reveal it in this book? I said, sure, why not? So we did.
So you find out Palpatine's first name in the book.
It's Joey.
How you doing, Joey? Then in February, we've got Star Wars Heir to the Jedi by Kevin Hearn. And Jen, do you want to give a little flavor on this?
Sure. So Kevin Hearn is best known for writing the Iron Druid series, as you may know or may not know, that series is written in a very casual first-person style. And so when we first started working on this with Kevin. We were kind of, trying to figure out where to go, and we were having a little trouble, and, suddenly we kind of hit on, like, hey, Kevin, like, let's write the way you write, And so this is our first ever first-person Luke Skywalker novel, so you really get inside his head. It takes place shortly after New Hope, and it has plenty of action and adventure, but it also has a real element of Luke realizing that the only person that he had who could tell him about the Force is now gone, and just trying to figure out what he can do on his own, how he can tap into the Force, what his responsibilities are to the Force. So it has this really personal element to it, as well as some really cool action scenes.
All right, and then spring of 2015 from Paul Kemp, we have Star Wars Lords of the Sith. And this cover kind of says it all, but...
That's the bush. Yeah, we just decided that in the office, we were just talking, and we just decided, the Emperor and Darth Vader really seem to have a sort of team relationship in movies, and they work together, and we never see that. And we know that they're both Siths, we know they can both really kick some butt. So why don't we see them work together? What would they do if they had a chance to be out there and actually relying on their wits and their strength and the Force to survive? So that's where this came from.
It's part of it's like a Vader Palpatine road trip novel.
Well, it's supposed to
totally
take place on one road, yeah.
Road trip, Vader!
Spring break.
And then coming in summer 2015.
Yes!
This actually has a title now, Dark Disciple.
Yes.
That was actually Dark Disciple, was one of the titles of the unproduced episodes that this novel is based on. And so I guess we should say more about that.
Do you want them to say more about it?
Yeah, we can't say too much right now, but like I said, this novel is based on some unproduced scripts that were written for the Clone Wars. They had this really fantastic story arc written for Ventress, who does indeed have hair in this arc, and Quinlan Voss. And the two of them have to team up for a mission, and sparks fly.
A lot of good versus evil kind of stuff, and walking the tightrope between the two, and what does it mean?
Sorry, something missing a slide. Goth Lieutenants.
This is a conspiracy.
Thank you.
Missing a slide. Sorry, Jordan.
No problem. We announced at San Diego Comic-Con that Marvel Comics would be doing Star Wars comics again, which is pretty exciting. And at that time we announced a Star Wars series, a Darth Vader series, and a Princess Leia miniseries, all set after A New Hope and before Empire Strikes Back. And the biggest question that I've got since then is, well, if they're all in the same period, are you guys only going to do stuff about that one period? When are you going to do more? And the answer is, we're announcing right now, here today, that we are doing a Kanan series about Kanan from Rebels. And it's going to be, it's pretty exciting because, again, Lucasfilm is giving us the opportunity to reveal for the first time information about this character and about his backstory. Stuff that's alluded to in A New Dawn as well, about his history. There is a cover that is pretty sweet, and that cover shows young Kanan and his Jedi Master surrounded by clone troopers, because we're going to be dealing with how he survived Order 66 and how another Jedi is alive at that moment when they should not be in need because they're all supposed to be dead. So that's going to be starting in April, and it's going to be actually an ongoing series because there's a lot of story to tell about Kanan before he sets foot into the Rebels pilot. So pretty exciting.
And it's definitely, even if you don't watch Rebels, it's just a really interesting story about, a Padawan who survives Order 66 and has never had to live in the real world. He's always been sheltered in the Jedi Temple, and, how is he suddenly supposed to survive all on his own? So it's a really compelling subject matter, whether you watch Rebels or not.
Oh, and of course I should mention who's doing it. It's being written by Greg Weisman, who is one of the producers on the first season of Rebels. He also was the creator of Gargoyles, if you're familiar with Gargoyles. So he obviously has a very intimate knowledge of Kanan and his backstory, so having him write that for us is pretty terrific. It's going to be drawn by a terrific artist named Pepper Miraz, and with covers by Mark Brooks, who's a really terrific artist. It's super exciting to work with Star Wars. One of the things I want to say that I love about this series is that it connects Rebels and Clone Wars in a way that is just so cool and palpable, because obviously Kanan, one of the main characters of Rebels, and we get to see him in that Clone Wars context. I think that's really neat to connect the two series.
Kanan is really fun to write about because I always looked at it as the flip side of Obi-Wan Kenobi's experience. Because Obi-Wan Kenobi, comes out of Episode 3 with a mission, a plan, something to do. And Kanan has no direction, nobody to guide him, and he's making it up all on his own. And I think it's a great thing to try to pursue more of.
And apologies for not having it covered. It was in the PowerPoint. It disappeared. The Emperor hid it away, but I'm pretty sure that I saw it on newsarama.com earlier today, so you can find it there. And it's worth looking up. It's a beautiful cover.
Yeah, and the artist who did it, Mark Brooks, he's here today in Art Salad, so if you want to stop by, you'd probably love to hear nice encouragement about it.
So, one of the things that we're seeing here is that Rebels and A New Dawn is sort of a new era of storytelling for us, and not just in the stories that we're telling, but in the way that we're telling the stories. This collaboration between Lucasfilm and Del Rey and Marvel and the story team involvement. I was wondering if the panel could talk on that a little bit and how the process of these projects have come about.
Sure. So for A New Dawn specifically, we decided it would be really great if we could have a prequel novel that led into the series, and the executive producers were really excited about that idea as well. And it was a collaboration from the beginning. We started off with getting Dave Filoni and John on the phone, and Dave really giving John a download on Kanan and Heir and who they are, and you have to remember at this point, because of production times, nothing was actually done on Rebels. So it's really an impressive feat that John wrote this great book without ever seeing an episode of the show.
Well, that's how this always is. I mean, it's kind of a moving target when you're working on something where people are also simultaneously working on it. But yeah, I mean, I got insight into what they had planned, and particularly what I needed to know was, okay, I know how these characters are going to be when we see them on the screen, but I'm going to be setting my book several years earlier, so what do they think about the galaxy at that time, and what do they think about each other at that time? And that was something where it was really helpful to have the Lucasfilm story group there, to be able to look at the plots as we were going along and look at the dialogue that I had written for them and make sure that everything that I had in mind, synced up right. And that was, I got notes from Greg Weisman and from Simon Kinberg as well, all three executive producers. So yeah, it was a new way of doing things, but it is also a new dawn for Star Wars fiction. So I think it worked out.
Yeah, and then similarly, they've shared a number of these with us as well. I've read A New Dawn so that we can work on this, and we've talked about Heir to the
Heir of the Jedi.
Heir of the Jedi as well, because obviously it takes place at the same time as our Star Wars series. So we've talked about how they fit together and in what ways we can reflect each other. And it's been very collaborative across the line. It's been great being able to talk about it. This is going to sync up with that and that media. This is going to be with that. It's pretty cool.
It's not really all that different than the way it was before. The difference is for the first time we can do it all together. So it's not being done linearly, but it's being done sort of all woven. So while we're working in different areas, so for example, the Lords of the Sith, one of our heroes is Cham Syndulla, who was, if I recall correctly, Kira's
Yeah, Cham Syndulla was murdered, right? In the Rylon arc. When was it? Was it season 3? Or, I don't remember which season, pardon me. I have not slept in like 4 days, but yes, Cham Syndulla was an incredibly brave fighter in the Clone Wars.
and also what we were told, some kind of force in helping create Hera who she is. She had a relationship, or looked up to him and what he had done.
This is news to me. Wow.
That's what we were told, now you know. So we were told that, and we thought it was cool because then we had this book where we have another character related to the rebels, and it's all of a piece, and just because they don't always tell us everything. It is something we can do simultaneously, so you don't suddenly look back and say, well, we don't have to plug things in retroactively anymore. I don't think we'll ever need to use the word retcon again. And that's the really, really exciting thing. All this help and all this input and all this planning and the treatment of the books and the comics and the movies and the TV series and anything else that's happening is sort of unranked and all part of developing this whole galaxy, which makes it really exciting and for us to work on that way.
And at the same time, we're making sure that every story we tell stands on its own as a story. So you don't have to feel like you need to read every comic and every novel, to know a story. Like it's just the fact that you can really feel that they're all part of the same universe.
Well, it's kind of like I always thought with the interesting thing about Tolkien, who dare I say I'm not a huge fan, but I respect his world building was incredible. One thing about it is whenever you mentioned a myth, you just were a piece of history. You knew it happened. He wouldn't tell you right there. You knew it really happened somewhere. They were indeed in his notes somewhere, and that's what we get to do. So Robert Jordan did the same thing. George R. R. Martin did the same thing. So it's allowing us to do that. So you could read one book, but you'll hopefully our goal is you'll be feeling like you're getting a really full piece of something much bigger, which just makes it more real to me. Makes it more, you don't have to read the others, you can, but it makes it more like a real world and not just a momentary invention.
I think the other thing that we always work towards is we know that every book is someone's first. Every comic book is someone's first. Every episode of a TV series is someone's first. We try to introduce everybody and make sure that you can hit the ground running and that you're not overburdened with a whole lot of research that you have to do to figure out where you are. We will hint about things, and that will at least suggest, there's more reading out there somewhere, or more viewing out there somewhere. But yes, that's your first step into a larger world, to steal somebody's phrase.
I think what's interesting though is that I'm involved in the Rebels portion of this, and that was news to me. I think while they're collaborating in some room on the ranch, we're all sort of learning about this together, so it's not only exciting for them to be simultaneously creating it as we're learning it, but even those of us who are in the trenches don't know yet all of the details. So this is an exciting time even for people who are creating it. That you just blew my mind. I love Cham Syndulla.
So Vanessa, I know that you've read A New Dawn.
Yeah.
How, in your opinion, how have Kanan and Hera evolved from what we read in A New Dawn to what we're seeing in the early episodes of Rebels?
Well, I think Hera trusts him more now. Hera very much seems like the type of rebel who watches people. that their actions speak louder than words, and she's very observant and keen on letting people show her who they are. And I think in A New Dawn you get a sense of who Kanan is out of his pain and suffering, because Order 66 obviously devastated him. And you see the trials, you see in Spark Rebellion that Ezra passes the test, as it were. So you see what those were for Kanan in A New Dawn. So I really enjoyed the specificity of it. It helped me better understand why I chose him to be a part of the mission.
Yeah, I think we tried in A New Dawn to begin showing the dynamic that the executive producers were telling me about, which is that Hera is really the great strategist, the mastermind, the person who puts everything together. Kanan is more in the Jedi sense, the field general, the tactician, the person who comes up with a wild scheme to get out of this jam or this other situation. Hera does that too, but what Hera's doing at this stage of the timeline is looking for people who will be allies, who can do this sort of thing.
Well, and also it's a difficult time for Kanan, because if you rip out the lightsaber, you will die. So he wants to tell Hera who he is, but there's a risk that he could be killed. So there's that constant thread of tension where they want to show each other who they really are. I think Hera sees pieces of that in him and hopes that that is the case. But it's such a dark time for everyone that everyone's sort of playing close to the vest, and it's fun to sort of watch them open up to one another in that way.
Was there anything in A New Dawn that helped you prepare as maybe influenced your performance of Heir?
I think it is so vivid and it's written so well. I really enjoyed it. I had so much...
I hate her to say that.
No, I am not just saying that. It was devastating to see how the Empire literally was exterminating people without any care, no compassion. It's hard not to plug those variables into things that are going on in our society today that are upsetting. And so I remember the recording session that was directly after reading, that I did after reading the novel. I felt a sense of intimacy with Kanan and a deeper understanding for their losses. Because you can talk about, oh, they've lost it all, but when you have actual examples, like I said, that are so vivid and that it's so well written, my heart just ached for those characters and what they're going through. And really, I've said this before, like the person you should fear the most is the one with nothing to lose. This crew, they have nothing to lose, and now you have a better sense of why, because they've literally lost many people that they love. And you see that in A New Dawn. It's really riveting and amazing.
What I really wanted to do with the book was show the suffering of everybody in this country. Because this is something which is not just happening to the main character, it's happening to everybody out there. We get to see a lot of the rank and file regular folk and how this is affecting them. You mentioned things from the real world. I mean, I've used this joke many times, but I have the last Soviet studies degree offered in this country. The Soviet Union literally collapsed on my dissertation. I had to go into comics instead. But I finally did get to use it. I mean, my first comic series was actually Crimson Dynamo for Marvel, which is the Russian Iron Man. And now over here in A New Dawn, I'm getting to write about the rise of a totalitarian state, transforming the institutions that previously existed. And it doesn't, it sneaks up on people. The Emperor uses people. The Emperor gets people to be his accomplices in this thing. We see a lot about the Imperial Navy and how it's transforming in this book. These people don't think there's anything wrong. They find this to be a big opportunity. The Republic was screwed up in a lot of ways. Everybody thinks that they're the hero in their own story. And so the Emperor has just set up a scheme whereby a lot of people think they're doing something for themselves and they're really doing it for him.
Well, and speaking of the Empire, that kind of leads into my next question here. It's clear that in many of these books, and what we can assume will be coming from you guys at Marvel, Jordan, is that the Empire is going to play a big role in a lot of what's going on in these stories. And I'm wondering if the panel can maybe discuss that a little bit, what we might expect from the Empire, or how much fun it is to be working with the Empire again, telling these stories.
Well, one of the really neat things about the books that we've got lined up is that because we have a Star Wars book and then we have a Vader book, we get to see kind of both sides of I mean, not that you're going to read the Vader book and go, totally reasonable, I'm with him 100%, but you get to see it a little bit from the other side of the story. You get to see it from the baddest dude in the Empire. And that is super fun, because obviously we all know where it's going, we all know how the Empire is going to end up, but it's neat to see it when it's at its prime, operating as best it can.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, there's kind of a delicate balancing act that goes on, particularly in depicting Vader, because you don't actually want to know too much about him. He's this terrifying, imposing, often silent figure, and we don't want to lose the impact that he has on those around him. So it's, a challenge that's thrown out to the writers who work on these books and comics to tell a really engaging story with Vader as a main character, but at the same time, not have him, giving long soliloquies about his days on Tatooine.
That was actually the advice. The very first Star Wars story I ever wrote was the only Vader story I ever did. It was a comic book for Dark Horse that the editor said, a little Vader goes a long way. Never have him talk more than about a sentence, because that's usually enough.
The interesting thing is Vader in ways is a kind of a symbol, an icon of the Empire. And the Empire is ubiquitous, it's everywhere at this point in time. So far, really what we've seen is the rise of the Empire, if you want to call it that, in the prequel trilogy. And you've seen the rebellion uprising and in the end seeming to bring down the Empire in the classic trilogy. But we haven't, we start to hope the Empire is solidly in place. And all we know is they're the bad guys and they're the oppressors. And now we're getting to really kind of explore the Empire almost as a character. It's a combination of character and backdrop. And Vader stands for that, but the cool thing is we can explore a lot of that without having to go into him and utilizing him too much. And we can now finally let our characters work in this, and we can see what really made people have to rebel. Why do they feel they really have to take those risks? And what is the Empire doing? And what is the Emperor's goal? And all that kind of stuff. So we get to finally explore this, which is really kind of neat, fun thing.
So does that mean we probably won't see a first-person novel from Vader?
It would be short.
Breathing all the time.
A lot of breathing.
I think at this point we could probably open the floor up to questions from the audience.
The microphone,
Step on up to the
middle
mics.
aisle.
Over the past year, I've gotten over the cancellation of the expanded universe. I was just wondering if there were plans or discussions to remake or reimagine any of those characters that were introduced in the EU.
Everything is open at this point. We just don't know yet. But right now, we don't have any specific plans. And when I say plans, I don't mean we're not imagining things. I'm saying that we have no specific plans in place to continue anything. It doesn't. One thing I'll tell you is that this is all conjecture, and that has nothing to do now. Way back when we took the new Jedi Order, and we were originally planning to kill Jason. This is nothing new. We're going to kill Jason and Anakin. George is the one who said kill Anakin, not Jason. And our conjecture that we didn't know for sure was that he didn't, he was working on, he didn't want two Anakins running around at the same time. It's confusing. So right now, look, all the new stuff is coming out, so we're not planning anything. Because why muddy the waters? All this new cool stuff. Who knows what the future will bring, but right now we're focusing elsewhere.
But it's definitely not, it's not off the table. I just want that to be clear. Those characters are still out there, and you probably will see some of them pop up.
Thank you. Clearly the other rooms like to answer.
Hello. So Mr. Jackson, since you wrote many books compared to the different eras of the even the unique era to Jedi Corbin, what do you think makes a Star Wars story still a Star Wars story, despite being various time periods?
I've written in, I think, 5 different eras now, and I've been slowly getting closer to the movie eras because I've started way in the way back. Knights of the Old Republic, Knight Errant, Lost Tribe of the Sith, and then Kenobi and A New Dawn. The thing that has been similar, it's all still the same themes of Star Wars. One of the things that's been running through all of my books is the notion of a Jedi alone. The Jedi Order is this big institution that itself carries all this weight. But what is the story of the original Star Wars trilogy? It's the story of Luke Skywalker, the last of the Jedi, having to try to figure out, gee, now what do I do? Well, that's also the story of my Kenobi novel. Gee, now what do I do? With Kanan. Gee, now what do I do? And of course, Knights of the Old Republic was a Jedi on the run. Knight Errant was a Jedi on the loose, working as an underground activist. There's even a lone Jedi running around, and Lost Tribe of the Sith got from him. It struck me that was a chord which was similar to those stories that I really, since I couldn't write about Luke, let's figure out a way to tell the same predicament in a different way. Look, I've been reading this stuff, but my first grown-up comic book as a kid was Star Wars #1 from Marvel. My first grown-up novel as a kid was Splinter of the Mind's Eye from Del Rey. To me, it's all Star Wars. Whoever's writing it, whoever's doing it, as long as it echoes the themes and hits the right notes and feels like it's in the universe. And the best thing people have said to me about this novel is it feels like it could have been written last year, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. That's great, because I'm trying to write for myself, when I started reading this stuff. And to the people that fell in love with Star Wars to begin with.
Thanks, Kyoto Hoover.
Hi, first, A New Dawn was a great book, so thank you.
Hey, him too, I think. But they were public credits, so they're not worth anything anymore.
That said, your initial lineup seems to be very Jedi-focused. Is there any chance of getting something like the old X-Wing series from Stackpole or something like that, focusing on non-Jedi characters and stuff like that?
There's possibilities
Yes.
for everything.
Yeah, we're not planning on just telling stories about Jedi or Vader or Luke, or you'll definitely see things down the road that involve other kinds of characters.
Thank you. Actually, if you subscribe or read Star Wars Insider, a lot of the short stories that we've been doing for those focus on just those types of characters. Characters that aren't Jedi, that are characters like you and I, just living in the Star Wars universe.
Regular people.
Yep.
Hi. You discussed briefly the Leia miniseries, and obviously Heir is important and adventurous between the novels, but a lot of the characters seem to be male, and all the books and series seem to be more focused. Can we expect in the future to get more women to be center characters?
Oh, yes.
Yes. I mean, it just kind of, this initial slate was kind of worked out that way, but I mean, that's something that's really important to us.
We do have a great female
Absolutely.
character in the book.
Two of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 of them. One's really,
Yeah,
really
they're
cool, and one's, well, they're both really neat, very different.
Yeah. And they're really Luke's co-stars. I mean,
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah.
100%. And for actual stars in the future, oh yeah.
The first Imperial we meet at New Dawn is Ray Slum. So
Yeah, we're all big fans of
Yeah,
that.
we like her. And of course, well, there is a Asajj Ventress, which is, she's an awesome character, so we're gonna have a lot of fun with her in the future, definitely.
Thank you.
And again, Star Wars Insider, we had a great 2-part story over the summer called Blade Squadron that featured Gina Moonsong, a B-Wing pilot. It was really good, so.
Before the great reboot, you guys had this great expansive continuity going on hundreds of years in the future, thousands of years in the past. I mean, I assume you guys are in a conservative state right now, but is there a plan to eventually get back to that amazing universe and those time periods?
I hope so. That's a slightly tricky question for me to answer right now. What we're working on right now is very tied into the entertainment that's coming out. But
This is a shame because it's all for kids.
well, episode 7 is not going to be for kids.
No, but I watched Rebels.
There's some
It's not the
scenes
same
in this
thing.
book. It is an adult novel.
Also,
That's good to hear, thank
keep
you.
in mind that almost everybody, even me, I was pretty young when Star Wars came out. What do you think booked us? You think Star Wars was an adult movie? It just happened to be so good, adults and kids liked it, and it was great for everybody. We're trying to reach out the same way. This isn't all for kids, just because it's Disney, don't get that idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in terms of plans, I can definitely tell you that we certainly don't have any plans not to do that stuff.
Yeah. It's definitely something we would like to do.
Our biggest problem is there's too much we can do, and we can't publish too many books before you can't afford to buy them all. So,
Star Wars can go some dark places. Ask Uncle Owen and Aunt Maru. I was 9 years old. That scared the heck out of me.
Yeah, some of the writers I've worked with have some pretty twisted ideas. Like I said, that Vader book, there's some crazy stuff in there.
It's necessary to show the brutality of the Empire, and we do try to. It's just there's no reason to be risen about it. It's not really that's not Star Wars.
Yeah, and I hope, I mean, I don't know if this is like a feeling that's out there or something, but there has never been any directive from Disney to us in adult publishing to tone anything down or make it younger or anything like that. They know that our adult program is very important to us, and they support it unequivocally.
We got Jedi arms piled up all over the place. I mean, it's not,
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So Vanessa, you've got another panel this afternoon that's kind of exciting. You want to tease that a little bit?
Yes, there's a Rebels panel today at 5:45 on the Empire stage, and hopefully I'll see you all there.
And we're starting to get the wrap-up symbol, so like any last comments from any of the panelists? Any parting words?
Stay tuned. I'm sorry that we don't have a new novel to announce at this panel, but it doesn't mean there aren't things in the works. There are. They're just not quite at that point where we can announce them, but you should be expecting to hear some announcements fairly soon, hopefully. So.
Just stick with us, because we're going to keep moving and we're going to keep growing, and this is a new beginning. I mean, it's a new dawn, and we're all really excited about it. Hope you stay with us for it. Go on the journey with us.
this really is 1976. This is the year before. So a lot of things are going to happen.
Can't follow that.
We dress better than we did in 1976.
I'll just say I think this is the best time ever to be a Star Wars fan, and just excited about everything that's to come from Rebels and Episode 7 and Marvel and Del Rey. It's just some really great stuff that's going to be happening. And once again, happy Reads Day, and thank you all for coming out, and thank you for your support.